it's not going to look good in 10 years, guys. Really stop and ask yourself, what are you doing?
It doesn't even look good now, unfortunately. Yeah. What's up, YouTube? Drive-By Movies here, and you are watching
Fresh Releases.
My name is James.
My name is Blaise.
And today we are checking out the new and exclusive to Disney Plus, as well as in theaters as well, Jungle Cruise.
Good night. I got you.
Frank, get it.
Hold on.
Come on.
I got it.
Frank.
I don't got it.
No. For goodness sake, just leave me alone. That was a disaster.
Didn't go the way I planned.
Jungle Cruise is based on Disneyland's theme park ride, where a small riverboat takes a group of travelers through a jungle filled with dangerous animals and reptiles, but with a supernatural element. So James, this has been a film that's been talked about for, I almost feel like 2 decades at this point. I don't remember exactly the date that the original Pirates of the Caribbean with Johnny Depp came out, but I remember that this was always a topic of conversation. Reason that it's taken so long for us to actually get this film felt like it was, the lack of success from films like A Haunted Mansion. They even went to go back to the well on that multiple times, but we still only have the Eddie Murphy version that's just, quite frankly, not that good. And then some other theme park rides that they've made throughout the years. But they finally brought to us Jungle Book with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. What'd you think about the movie?
Well, I thought it was a very fun concept to make into a movie. I'm like, Jungle Cruise, I feel like you can make a fun story out of that. There's a lot you can do with that. But they don't go in the direction you would expect whatsoever. The only throwback really to this ride is just that there's a boat, a river, there is a jungle, and there's some funny puns. One of my favorite things about the ride is the dorky puns that the narrator or like the captain skipper tells to the audience and stuff. Like, I don't want to go through all the jokes, but they use some of them in the movie, and it does work well. It's pretty comedic at times. I like the dorky dad jokes for the most part that Dwayne Johnson is using throughout the movie. But why they go in a Pirates of the Caribbean direction with a weird curse and like over the top special effects just doesn't look well. And these special effects look straight out of 2003 when the first Pirates of the Caribbean came out. They easily could have filmed that like in some natural and some on set places, but for whatever reason, like 80% of this movie looks like it's on a green screen, and there's a lot of weird use of CGI for no reason. Like, I was cracking up when during the first chase boat scene when The Rock is throwing like ropes and it's catching onto a pillar. I'm like, why are they using fake ropes for that? It's like the most obvious CGI thing I've ever noticed, and just came across so bad. And just like, yeah, I really didn't like this movie, unfortunately. Like, I really wanted to, and we'll get more into it, but it's just a ripoff of just a bunch of other movies, and just like it was very disappointing because I really like The Rock and I really like Emily Blunt as well too.
Yeah, definitely. I have to agree with you for the most part. I did really want to give this movie a shot, and I think I enjoyed aspects of it. I really think they did a great homage to the ride, like with all the puns, like you were saying. I thought those were so fun. Like, it just gave the vibe of like, sitting on that ride, waiting in the line, and then finally you get to sit there and you're like, this ride kind of sucks, but at least it has like this silly kind of moments going for it. And they really gave a throwback to all those moments. Kind of reminds me of in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, how they had the scene with the dog, like that, that famous scene with the dog and the guys in the prison and they're trying to get the keys. Like, it felt like they had those moments, but in this film in spades, which was really refreshing. Mm-hmm. But then when it comes to the actual movie, it was just littered with just garbage CGI, which was disappointing. Like you're saying, like, all this stuff is possible to film on an actual set. Like, why are we going so far into just make a video game, guys? It just felt like we're making a video game here, or let me boot this up. It's going to be a video game that I can't play. So, I mean, me personally, I feel like if I wanted to freaking play a video game, I would play a video game, not watch a video game on YouTube or something. Mm-hmm. But I know people out there do that. So not throwing shade on everyone, but it wasn't my cup of tea when it comes to everything being CGIing things that literally exist in the real world, like ropes, like you mentioned. And I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, just get a Jaguar to film with the Jaguar. Like, I understand that has to be CGI, but it just seemed like when 90% of the environments and sets are all made in a computer, it just really loses like the actual fun performances and charisma that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is trying to give and display. Like, I think he is a great actor. Like, I don't think he's totally done like some of the best movies, but I don't think this is by far his worst movie.
No, yeah, it's like definitely more just has to do with the script overall for the most part. That's the biggest problem within this movie. You can tell that this movie was written a long time ago, just because so many movies more similar like have come out in more recent years and stuff. Like, this just feels like a script that Disney just took out of the trash and just like made a couple changes more recently and stuff. Fun fact about the movie, originally it was supposed to star Tim Allen and Tom Hanks in the lead roles, but of course a couple rewrites were later added in, and like I think that's probably what brought us the character of Emily Blunt into this movie. But what really just didn't work for all is just overall the chemistry between the three main characters. I thought it's definitely like, I mean, I don't want to say a ripoff or it's inspired, but it's definitely like just like a wannabe version of the cast of the original Mummy movie with Brendan Fraser. All right, not the original Boris Karloff one. I shouldn't have said original, but like that one still feels like still really fresh, because that was definitely like how you do a reboot, I'd say. But the dynamic between Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz, Evie and O'Connell, I remember, it's just bickering constant throughout the whole movie, and then eventually they fall in love towards the end, and then they have this dorky sidekick brother who's just always messing things up, is just wanting to get rich. It's the same exact thing, but it just I didn't feel the chemistry here, unfortunately. Like, I wanted to, and I know that like some of the critics are saying like they're praising the chemistry between The Rock and Emily Blunt. Like, I did like their bickering, but just it didn't come off natural. It just felt like I was just watching people just trying to do their best Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz like impersonation. Like, they're like, oh, watch this movie, this is what I want you guys to do. They didn't feel like they gave it their own, I felt like.
Yeah, honestly, you just broke the movie for me. I didn't make that connection entirely. So now I don't have anything really to say left. We should probably just end the episode here. Because I feel like I saw all the comparisons between, all right, well, let's look at the most successful property that we've had that's clearly a thrill ride at Disneyland and, you know, made into a film. Let's take Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, and just kind of adapt it so it's similar, but with the Jungle Cruise ride. But really, they borrowed from, you know, a great reboot and also a great adventure movie, The Mummy. Like you said, I think that relationship is pretty much exactly the same between Emily Blunt, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Jack Whitehall. I think it's the same as, you know, I forget the Jonathan, the brother characters. Yeah. I forget who that actor is exactly, but yeah, Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. But yeah, it's just, there's too many things that this film is borrowing from, and even things that don't make absolutely any sense, which I liked, but it was just weird. Like the whole character and story of like this Aguirre character who's basically essentially like, that's a throwback to Werner Herzog in his film Aguirre, Wrath of a God. It's like throwbacks and homages to films that no one that's sitting down to watch this movie even knows the film Aguirre. So it just seems like weird to even bother. I don't know. It was like, I mean, I have to say, like, that's ballsy to make that homage, but like, why even bother? In a sense, you know, it's like, it's weird, but like, I did like it, but it's like no one else is gonna get it, so it's so weird.
No, 100% agree and stuff like, and like it makes it fun. And like, well, just a couple of weeks ago, I was just thinking they don't make adventure movies anymore. Like, it really bummed me out. I was just like, why aren't there? I had just watched The Mummy recently, and also I just watched the Indiana Jones movies recently. And I was like, oh, why aren't there like movies like this anymore with like fun practical effects and stuff? Like, The Mummy has CGI that didn't like age too well and stuff, but there's still a lot of fun practical effects, and the set pieces are beautiful. And then of course Indiana Jones, like some storyline elements might not work out the best like anymore, but like Temple of Doom, I'm still surprised by that nonstop action the final hour and how good it looks and stuff, despite it being very playful with like a railroad, like runaway carts and stuff, like on a mine track. Like, it's still very fun and like uses its set pieces well versus this. Like, I wanted some fun action. I was so glad, like, I forgot that this movie was coming out. So when we reviewed it, I was like, oh, cool, an adventure movie. I'm actually excited for this. But it's just very too modern and just like not inspired by like some of the best movies, I'd say. Like, just like, because, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean, like the use of like these cursed conquistadors and stuff, like they look just like the Davy Jones pirates in the second movie, like where they just adapt to their environment. And then just like the overall story of like this looking for this pedal reminded me of the fourth Pirates of the Caribbean, where they're searching for the Fountain of Youth, and there's a huge get together between the good guys and the bad guys at the end. Just like, it just felt too familiar and not enough different, which is sad.
Yeah, and I think really at the end of it, I have to say, like, just the fact that I think that there was a lot of good ideas that went into making this movie, and maybe you could argue that they borrowed way too many ideas, which, I mean, kind of, but at the same time, like, I think there was a lot of great influences that went into the making of this film, but at the same time, they didn't really just stop and say, hey guys, what are we doing here? Like, we're really making homages to all these great films or fun movies or like these adventure movies, but yet we're going to shoot 90% of a movie on a green screen. Like, really just stop for a second and realize that everything that you're homaging, I know they didn't have the technology to shoot on the green screen, but even the technology, that the CGI that they utilize in The Mummy, which is a huge inspiration for this film, obviously, it does not look good now. But yeah, let's up that to 90% of the movie. All the practical effects and practical sets in The Mummy still look great. But yet this film literally contains pretty much almost no... It felt like nothing was real. There's so many scenes that you're just looking at 90% of it is like a green screen. I almost feel like the actors were like painted in to stuff. It's so weird. It's not going to look good in 10 years, guys. Really stop and ask yourself, what are you doing?
It doesn't even look good now, unfortunately. Yeah. It's passable now. But honestly, though, like, I think, like, I don't know the name of the YouTube crew, but I know that there's like visual effects artists who like rate movies and their special effects, and they focus on like older movies. Shout out to that channel. I don't watch their videos often, but whenever I have, like, they're pretty entertaining, and I'm pretty sure they would like rip this movie for the most part.
Shout out to that channel, which you don't even know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think you're talking about Corridor Digital. I just thought that was. I think that's who you're talking about. They're all like VFX artists react to or some shit.
Those are the videos. Yeah,
I've only watched like one of their videos like 3 years ago, but I think I remember that was them.
Yeah, I've only seen like 3 on my feed or something like that, and yeah, I'm just like, oh, entertaining, but like, yeah, if they have a video on this, I'm looking forward to it for the most part. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much my thoughts on it. Like, you know, I can't really say I recommend it. Like, if you got kids, like, sure, it might be a good 2-hour movie to keep them quiet. They'll probably be entertained for the most part, but just, it wasn't for me just watching on my own and stuff. Like, yeah, this is definitely like just more like a kind of a, just like a movie of the week that is going to come and go this year, sadly.
Yeah, which works out perfectly because this is actually available on Disney Plus right now. So guys, if you do want to check it out, feel free to pay that extra $30 to go watch it on the service that you're already paying for.
Yeah. Before we go, I guess we have just a little announcement. Blaise, you'll be working on some things over the next month or so, right?
Yeah, so we were going to be moving the channel basically back down to 1 video a week. I know we kind of upped it during quarantine, but now that we're kind of going slightly back to normal, we're going to move it back down to 1 episode a week. So this video, fresh releases, this is coming out on Monday. It's going to be the only video for this week. You guys can tune in next week for a brand new fresh releases, but Never Have Ever will currently be going on hiatus. And then within the next couple months, we'll probably be changing up like what video comes out each week, or build like a different calendar there on out. So keep tuned, keep your eyes peeled.
Yeah, of course. A great way to help support the show in the meantime, though, is just by leaving a comment and letting us know what you thought about the movie. Be sure to smash that like button to help us reach a new audience. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
And that's going to be it for this week, guys. This is Fresh Releases. Tune in next week for a brand new episode.